Good morning, folks, and welcome back to our US Cyber Games Draft Experience series of events. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning as we wrap up our Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday series for this week. As a reminder, today we are here for our Lunch and Learn session. We have two phenomenal guest speakers lined up for you today. But before I introduce them, I did want to remind you that we will be back for our closing ceremonies and our final cyber career chats tonight from 8:30 until 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Tonight we have representatives from MasterCard and from Raytheon Nightwing joining us to share with you some insider tips and tricks for many of their entry-level and internship apprenticeship opportunities. So, without further ado, I have the pleasure of introducing a colleague of mine, Miss Davina Pruitt Mentle. Davina is joining us today as the lead for academic engagement with NIST. I know she's recently taken on another position, which I'm sure she'll share more with you about. Davina has joined us today to talk all about finding your cybersecurity launchpad. So, Davina, whenever you're ready, I will fade into the background and welcome on stage.
So let me go ahead and share my screen, I hope. Or not. There we go.
Right, here it comes.
Is it coming up?
It sure is, yep.
No, that's not.
I'm seeing a Word doc.
Hold on. There we go.
There we go.
Okay, and is it in show mode?
Not yet. There it is. Now it is. You are good to go.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. Little technology there. So thank you so much. Very honored to share with you today some of the resources and some of the tools and the different pathway opportunities. So I'm excited. Let's go ahead and get started. So one of the things that when folks are asking, how do I get into the job, or how do I get my first job? One of the first things we try to emphasize is you have to do that homework, sort of like the reconnaissance part of the work. And what we mean by that is cybersecurity is so vast and so broad, and it's in the financial sector, it's in the energy sector, and solar and healthcare, and the list goes on. So you have to be able to kind of narrow down what your particular interest is. The other piece that the National Science Foundation was tasked by Congress to come up with, like, definitions. They're still kind of working on this, but they have the four kind of categories, if you will, of cybersecurity occupations. So, the regular ones you probably think about that are very tech, cyber analyst and pen tester and chief information officer. But then we have our primary and secondary workers, and those are the ones that are working, in law or in a database architect and managers, or web development, or programmers. And then you have the involved workers, and those are others that are in computer and IT. And then the adjacent, which are the ones that, to be honest, it seems like it's everyone. So like teachers, but you still have some cybersecurity work roles that you're involved in. So, trying to get kind of an idea, are you wanting that real tech kind of job, or are you looking for some of the other options? So here are some tools that I want to be able to share with you. One is the NIST Workforce Framework. And so this kind of lays out the 7 broad categories of cybersecurity work. And we've now gotten into competency areas. So if you're interested in AI or cloud computing, that type of cloud security. So doing your homework to figure out what's the area, and then what are some of the work roles that are in those areas, so you can help define down within that NIST workforce framework. There are the task, knowledge, and skill statements, or the TKS, and there are over 1,000 task statements. And so part of the homework is going through those, and those tasks are basically, tasks that are needed to perform a particular type of work. So going through those and seeing which ones really resonate with you, or which ones do you already have a lot of the knowledge and skill statements under your belt, or are there gaps that you need to reskill up or to add to go after that particular job that you're looking at. So some of these tools that we're going to continue on and share with you, we're going to have to tease out the difference between the work roles, and those are the knowledge, skills, and that are needed to perform particular tasks. And then there are job titles, which a lot of people, you dive into the job boards and you see these titles, but with the understanding that you could have the same exact job title in two different companies and they could mean completely different things. So you have to sort of tease out what they're looking for, even with that job title. And then those kind of filter into our occupational series, mainly through our Department of Labor. So it might be something if you're more into, instruction or curriculum, or are you in law, or are you in engineering or the computer science, that occupational series. So understanding kind of the differences between those so that when you're using some of these tools, you can decipher. So one of the things on our NIST website, it's under Cybersecurity Career Week, but this is available throughout. There are lots of resources, and I want to make sure that you're kind of doing some of the homework and figuring out exactly what these work roles are. So for example, hopefully you can see my cursor, but there are some work role videos for all 52 work roles that we have, not only that we have curated, but then it also links to, like, the WSIS has, the Women in Cybersecurity has a whole archive of work role videos, and Cyber Jitsu has another, and SANS has another. So there you can go through and you can kind of see, ooh, I thought I liked that job title that I was going to apply for. That has nothing to do with what I'm interested in. So to get a sense of what these job roles are. And when you're teasing through which skills and knowledge you need more with, you will notice that there's a whole resource or a whole page of free and low-cost resources that are available, full courses, if you will. So there's lots of resources there. I also want to make sure that this is just a sampling on the right of the resource. A lot of these are the federal resources, of course. Big Future is the College Board, and Hacker is the Road Trip Nation. This is actually the one on cybersecurity. But below are lots of resources that are available that are federal. So Career One Stop, ONETs, Clearance Jobs, My Next Move, Mill Gears. CISA now has a Try Cyber, which is another resource. It's further down on the list, but all of these you have access to. And again, it's to try to tease out exactly what you're trying to apply for, so you know what to put in your resume or talk about in your interview. And then, of course, with the new competency areas, we're seeing sort of the shift of, are people more interested in the data piece? Are they cloud security? Are they more AI? Because there's a lot of the certifications and credentials that are coming out for those particular areas. So I'm not going to go through, I'm going to just skim through it so that you can see, and you could always come back and review some of these. But for example, in design and develop, that would be your secure software developer, or your enterprise architect. In operate and maintain, data analysis, system admin, some of the typical type of the oversight and governance category actually is this huge category of a lot of the other things, a lot of them that are less of the technical, but privacy compliance. And if you're in the legal area, or curriculum or instruction, or project management, those are some of the work roles that come out of this. Another tool that I want to make sure that you're making use of, and that is cyberseek.org. So that's free and open. It is NICE helps fund it, but it is with light casting CompTIA. They basically scrub the job boards to try to figure out what areas are in highest need, not only geographically, but also what jobs are appearing in those particular areas. So it gives you sort of a snapshot of what's available. You can also see not only which work role areas, but the certifications that are available here in Virginia. You see that the majority here, a larger majority, are in the operate and maintain. That's because we have a lot of the policy folks here in the DC, and the securely provision because we are in a high area for defense contractors. You can also zero in, so you can actually filter in and find your particular location. If it's rural or urban, you can filter by federal jobs or industry jobs. This gives you a snapshot of not only what work roles are in highest demand, and it also shares with you the top, for a particular area, the top job titles that are appearing in those areas. But it also lets you know what areas. So if you decide that you want to move away from where you're currently at and pursuing another, you need to make sure that there are jobs in those areas. So it's a great tool where you can see what exactly is available at a particular time, if you will. And then within this same resource, there is a cybersecurity career pathway tool, and it just helps sort of give you a snapshot of what are some of the feeder roles. Those are more in, high school or the community college, and then entry-level positions, and then where those can lead to. And I think that's important for recognizing, you just don't step out. I guess it all depends on where you're starting from. But if you are beginning your journey, you just don't step out and become a pen tester right away. You have to, kind of move up, just like other jobs. And so understanding where those entry level in the job descriptions that you're going to be looking at, looking at where you want to head to, and then what's a starting point that will get you there. So that's another great tool. And then within the CyberSeek, there's also an education and training providers resource. So you can kind of look at what is available, and many of these are virtual, of course. So the other key part is to understand the pathway. There are multiple pathways. There are also lots of tools available for those pathways that you can look at. So DICE has some, Journeys, Hats and Ladder. There's lots of starting and endpoints. Are you starting from high school and going through a career technical education CTE track? Are you going from high school and pursuing certifications? Are you going to community college? Are you going to a 4-year institution? Have you already gotten a degree, but you want to reskill and do something else in this particular area? So it helps you maneuver your way through that. And some of those journeys include apprenticeships. So there is a real uptick. Of course, Europe has been doing apprenticeships for much longer, many years longer than the US, but it has really started to take hold in the US, especially for cybersecurity. And so the Department of Labor has an apprenticeship.usa that you could go. You can zero down and you can actually get to the cybersecurity apprenticeships. Also on our NICE website, we work with the Department of Labor to have a apprenticeship program finder. So you can actually go in, find a particular apprenticeship program that is in your area and see where, and these are all cybersecurity related. So those are some resources if you're interested in the apprenticeship pathway. The other idea is to search for some internships. Internships, externships, all are available out there. You can look at some of the, like LinkedIn and Indeed, those have, you just search for cybersecurity internships and it pops up. There's also a federal internship finder. And then there are all sorts of, job boards and government-sponsored internships. Almost all the federal agencies have internships. Most of them will be opening up around now, in October, November, for the following summer. And it can be for undergraduates, some are for high school, some of them are for recent graduates. There's all sorts of different programs there to sort of get your feet wet. You might decide that for the federal is a good starting point, but then you could step away and go into industry afterwards. So just lots of tools out there to find great internships. Other work-based experiences, because one of the things that the takeaways here is that you really need the skills, the skill-based approach or the work experience. And so how do you get the work experience? You can do it through internships, you can do it through apprenticeships, do it through, summer jobs. But the other way is through competitions. And so here we have the US Cyber Games. That's a great opportunity, but there are also other competitions based with this group. Our NICE website also has a whole section for cybersecurity competitions. And so you could hit these and expand them out. So there's internships in policy, there's or competitions in policy, competitions in social media or social engineering. There are cryptology competitions, there are capture the flag, and then all of these particular competitions similar to the US Cyber Games, but there are many other flavors of competitions. And so we have a portal where you can find many of those. The next thing is, so now you've kind of delved in and you have an idea of where you're wanting to kind of focus. Is it more technical? Is it you're interested in the financial sector? So what are some possibilities there? So you've kind of teased out all of that. And the next thing is to make sure that your social media is up to date, not only cleaning house of your social media, of things that you don't want, but on LinkedIn, for example, bringing that up to date, and also how to make it searchable so people find you. And so I've listed here a webinar. You could probably search and you could find, LinkedIn has lots of resources itself, but we did an actual webinar with LinkedIn on how to really promote your LinkedIn profile. Another thing to keep in mind is to understand, if you get to the one, a social media, the other is making sure that you have your resume up to date. And so you might need to, we like to think about it as, even during October, cleaning house and cleaning up your resume. And there are lots of steps there on how to write a cybersecurity resume. There are tons of templates out there, making sure that you emphasize some of your soft skills, if you will, or your employability skills. Also understanding, preparing, doing your homework on the cybersecurity interview questions. So there are tons of resources out there that list, what are the top cybersecurity interview questions that are asked from different companies for different job work roles, for job titles. Also, I have here in the middle, and I wish it was larger, apologize, but is to understand now interviews are not only not only do you have to have your LinkedIn correctly architect so that you are searchable and findable. Your same thing has to happen with your resume. You need to know how to emphasize it so that when somebody gets a stack of 200, they're going to filter through some of those. So you better make sure that you have the key elements so that you at least get through the filtering process. When you get to the interviews, not only knowing some of the top interview questions and being prepared for that, but recognizing that a lot of these interviews are now virtual. And a lot of the virtual, there's different flavors of the virtual with AI actually coming into play. And so even if there's a person asking you the questions, there's AI running to figure out, is there eye contact in the interview process? How many times do you use different words? Which way did you look down? There's all sorts of preps to make sure that your interview, not only in person, those little helpful hints like how you dress and having your resume ready to answer or to prepare to give to the interviewee and doing homework on the company. But there's also a whole slew of helpful hints, if you will, in how to do an interview online. So just making sure that you recognize that that is, and it's a filtering process as well. So sometimes the AI will just filter through. And if you are not aware of what they're looking for and what some of the key takeaways, you could get passed over. So here's the larger part. Sorry about that. So also recognizing that more and more companies are asking for a written response. So sometimes they will, give you X number of hours to finish a written piece. Other times they give you a prompt and you have it the next day. But because in cybersecurity, even in the technical field, you still need to be able to communicate and to be able to share out those reports and those documents. And so the written response is becoming more and more prevalent in these interviews. So making sure that you have practiced some of that. And then the other key takeaway is just network, network, network. In cybersecurity, you have to network. So network in LinkedIn, find some people that you think you would like to connect with, see if you can. Most of the folks that are in cybersecurity, we all understand we need more people in this field. So if somebody reached out to me and said, I'd like to set up a time to meet with you. I'd like to, or can you mentor me? Most folks in the cybersecurity are going to agree to that. Depending on how busy they are, of course, but networking is important. Also, there are conferences, there are organizations, women in cybersecurity, there's women in IT, there's women in STEM, there's cyber jitsu, there are Black cybersecurity Engineer Association, Black Cybersecurity Organization. There's a lot of minority, different Hispanic and Latina. So there's so many organizations that you could get involved with and find meetups, find hackathons, find sessions that are open to the public for free, that you can go there not just to learn, but more importantly to network. And so this is a real important piece. And diversity also. There are lots of opportunities in diversity. We recognize that in cybersecurity, we need diversity, not for the sake of just checking the box and saying, we have so many females and et cetera, but we need diversity because we need diverse ways of looking at problems. If we keep trying to find a solution to a problem through the same lens, we're going to more often than not get the same answer. And so we're not really improving the cybersecurity space that we're trying to protect. So we need different backgrounds, different trains of thought, different different ways of looking at the same problem to come up with a different solution, which is really important. And so there's lots of opportunities for diversity, not only these organizations that I talked about, but there are scholarships available. The list goes on. So I hope that you will visit some of those resources and take advantage of them. I also wanted to make sure that you knew not only Cybersecurity Career Week, third week in October, but mainly because there are lots of these networking opportunities. So for example, on the 15th, we have an event here in the DC area. Well, it's in Rockville, Maryland. It's open to the public, NCCOE. And that would be a great way to network and to connect with people. There's a Women in STEM panel that is a webinar with women across NIST in cybersecurity. Again, another great opportunity to learn, but more importantly, to network. And the list goes on and on. So make sure you take advantage, not only the things that NIST is doing, but we also have a commitment portal so that you can go in and you can see what other people are doing, nonprofits, higher education, different training providers are offering things usually for free or competitions, and take advantage of that. So I wanted to just make sure that you knew about that. We also have a webinar. NICE has a webinar series, the third Wednesday of each month. We have a coordinating council, a great way to network, and we have some conferences as well. So with that, that is the end of the presentation, but I would love to hear from you some questions that you might have. And I might not be able to answer all of them, but I could find out for you the answer.
Fantastic. Thank you, Davina. Wonderful information. I really enjoyed the interview tips piece. And I hadn't, and I know there are a couple of comments in the chat as well about folks not being aware of some of the resources you mentioned around kind of coaching you through how to prepare for your interview, how to kind of present yourself during the interview, and goes back to a couple of the conversations we had with our guest speakers on Monday too, about the 3 Ps of kind of personal branding and the packaging yourself and what that looks like, the presenting yourself, and how to kind of best position yourself as you approach this process.
The homework is the key important. Often we are at booths, for NICE has a booth, a scholarship for service, and students come up with a resume, and then without, you look at the person, you ask, what are you interested in? Where do you plan to go? And they say cybersecurity. And that's kind of like, the universe. So we have to do our homework in knowing the different areas and what you're interested in, even with certifications. Most people talk about the technical certifications, but if you're interested in privacy compliance, that's a whole different, or project management, that's a whole different set of certifications that you would go after. So I think it's important to really tease out what you're more passionate about.
Yeah, certainly. And I know, we hear quite often here with the US Cyber Games program, just folks that are looking to take that first step. And it is quite overwhelming. It is so vast, the field of cybersecurity, in terms of finding your first job and what that'll look like and the types of skills you should start to kind of equip yourself with. And, really kind of putting your finger on what your wheelhouse is, what you like to do, and then seeing how that kind of falls on a lot of those mapping tools. And you mentioned a few, certainly the CyberSeek resource is a phenomenal one. That's one that I've been sharing with folks for years. The NICE framework, of course, is phenomenal for really kind of identifying where you might want to head. And then all of the career mapping pieces as well, kind of looking at what is your trajectory and what is the art of the possible. If I want to ultimately become a security architect, what is kind of the logical progression for me to get there? So
Yep.
Thank you for all that wonderful feedback. We do have a couple of questions, if you don't
Okay.
mind. I think most of them you'll probably have answers for. So I'll start with a softball.
Okay.
There was a webinar that you had mentioned that NICE had offered. You kind of covered it in one of your slides, and I'm blanking on the title of it at the moment. But folks are asking, are those NICE webinars recorded? And if so, are they available after the fact? And where would you find them?
Yes. So what I would Google is NIST NICE webinars, and it will pop
Okay.
up. And
Okay.
then scroll through that. There are several, and some of them are like the LinkedIn one was an older one, like a year or so ago, but it's very relevant still. And the resources that they provided, I went through, and those are still active and updated. So NIST NICE webinar, and the whole list of webinars will come up, and there's one on building a resume too. And so there's lots of them that will be helpful.
Amazing. So folks, NIST NICE webinar, Google search should find you their catalog of recorded
I can
webinars. And
also
then
try to
also,
find the exact one and put it in the chat if that would be helpful.
yeah, we can share that out
Yeah.
via Brella and via Discord.
Okay.
Um, Moving forward, you mentioned kind of a resource with the Department of Labor and some others that offer some insights into internships, apprenticeships, and things. This is kind of a two-part question, with the first being, what are you seeing in terms of just kind of trends and moving that direction here domestically in the US? You know, you mentioned Europe has done a pretty good job of really kind of making these opportunities available to young people and recent grads or current students. What are some of the trends here in the US that you're seeing around internships and apprenticeships, specifically in cyber?
Internships and apprenticeships. So one, being more open to allow apprenticeships is huge. I don't think people realize how long that has taken us to finally have the federal government and academia actually buy into apprenticeships is a pathway. So that is huge. It still is important to kind of delve into the particular apprenticeship that you're looking for, and to also delve into what is the outcome. Make sure that at the end that they actually say that they are going to get you an entry-level position, because some of the apprenticeships are not the typical. They says apprenticeship, but it is more like an internship, and so it's not hiring you and then keeping you on board. So make sure that you delve into the apprenticeship to find out what the final product is, and also what flavor of apprenticeship it is. So that's one. Another trend is, really the skills-based hiring. So really a focus on that, a focus around helping HR understand how to do job descriptions. I can't emphasize that enough. It has taken us quite some time to convince HR that, a help desk person does not need a bachelor's degree, 5 certifications, and like 10 years of experience. But that's what was showing up. So
Yeah.
fixing that is a key point.
Yeah.
Um,
That's all good stuff. Really
yeah,
helpful. Certainly. Cool. So trending in the right direction is what I'm hearing. Certainly more
yep,
companies are open to it. More universities are supporting it. The federal government is starting to recognize their role and encouraging a lot of organizations to kind of sign up and kind of continue this motivation and buy into
absolutely.
finding new and different ways to pull folks into the career field.
Yeah, yeah.
Great. And then so part two of that question, it came in. Other than, you mentioned some postings and things with the Department of Labor. This question is specifically for off-term, quote unquote, off-term internships and apprenticeships. So less summertime, more kind of spring, fall. Are there any organizations or resources online that you can think of that you might point folks towards and sort of just seeing what's coming up? I think you mentioned LinkedIn and maybe Monster or some other job boards. But specifically for entry level internships or apprenticeships, and even more specifically, those kind of off-season, quote unquote, off-season time periods.
So some of the, well, any of the typical job, LinkedIn, Indeed, those type of internships, they're not necessarily summer. The federal government has internships that a lot of times does cover summer, but it can continue, or there are other pathway programs and opportunities that you have to do that internship throughout. So you have to kind of dig down there a little bit. I know CISA, I looked at their website this morning and it's right bold there if you want an internship. And I think that's probably year round. That's not just during the summer. So I think all of the resources that I shared, and that was just a very small sampling, all of them offer, you know, throughout. It's not just the summer. It's just that there happens to be a higher volume, if you will, during the summer, which
Right.
actually was something that uh, us within the NIST office had said, that's a terrible time to have interns because everybody wants to go on vacation and nobody's left helping the interns. So I think people are rethinking that as well.
Cool. Excellent. I really, excuse me, I really like what you mentioned around better job descriptions. I know that's been a massive undertaking from lots of different directions, really kind of moving the needle in terms of how we speak to the types of skills we're looking for. And you mentioned, the skills-based hiring is really kind of the direction that a lot of folks are going, and removing some of the sort of like checkbox kind of requirements of you must have a degree, you must have 3 to 5 years of experience, you must have this certification or that, and really towards the kind of skills-based hiring. Did you have any comments on that piece?
Um, Not just that it has taken some time, and it's still going to continue to take time to figure out how to move that agenda forward. So I know, the Office of the National Cyber Director has really put forth kind of an effort to focus on the skills-based hiring. Through that, the federal government has sort of dropped some of the degree requirements and more on the skilled approach. So I can't emphasize again how significant that is. That is because not only do you have the federal government, but then the contractors that go with the federal government. So that is a big step. But more people need to buy in on it. And then, of course, there is a little tension there with academia because, of course, you're taking away their resource. But I think academia is stepping up and saying, how can we also showcase, skills-based
Yep.
approaches? And you'll see a lot more research coming out. I know a lot's coming out of the National Science Foundation on how to assess those skills. That's a whole other thing. So
Yeah.
competitions is right there at the forefront of being able to showcase that. It's a great opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah, great comments, and thank you for the plug on competitions. We appreciate that. Um, I
Yeah.
think we have one or two more questions that have come in. One is
Okay.
specifically kind of about interviews and sort of the role that AI is playing in the application and interview process these days. Um, if an employer is using AI during the application or interview process, do you have any tips for being successful in that sense? What is the AI looking for? You kind of mentioned a little bit about making sure your LinkedIn is up to date and having the resume polished and, doing the practice. But are there things that you've heard or that that are kind of common pitfalls or success stories around the application process, especially knowing now that more and more AI is being
I
incorporated in?
think one of you'd have to go directly in to find some of the particulars, but some of the takeaways that I thought were interesting is one, often when we're doing virtual, just like we're doing here, the eyes stray.
Yeah,
And in an interview process, they're looking for that eye contact. And so there's a couple of really great YouTube videos or videos somewhere that show how the AI is actually tracking your eyes, and what you're looking at, and that determines how trustworthy you are, how all sorts of little bits. So eye contact is one key. The other one it's picking up on is the words that they're looking for. So just like a resume, like
Oh,
when you do a resume, that first paragraph, you better have like some of the key things that they're looking for. Otherwise, it's, a resume reviewer is not going to get past the first page unless they really like you. So that first paragraph better have some of the words that they are looking for. That's why it's so important to do the homework, not only on the company and the job description that's coming across the board, but also because remember that job description is being uploaded by HR. They might not necessarily know what the team is really looking for. So doing your homework and finding those work roles, those tasks that are associated with that particular job that they are defining, and making sure that you verbally say it in your interview, because the AI is picking up on that. And then also making sure that it is in your resume, because again, it's getting picked up. So those are some of
yeah,
the ones that I know, that I remember. But I
yeah.
did want to just put in one other little plug, going back to internships. So sorry, but the federal one thing, there is through the State Department. It's careers.state.gov, but they have a virtual student federal service internship, which a real bummer they don't pay, but there's a whole slew. So all the federal agencies say throughout the year, we need somebody to help us with name that tune. And so I think you do have to still be in school or somehow in education or in a training program, but you could sign up for that, and that's throughout the year. So I just did a Google search for State Department virtual interns, and I was able to hit it. So that might be
Oh,
another
yeah,
opportunity.
fantastic. Careers, got it. All right, well, we are just getting near our time, so I will just ask if you have any closing comments, closing thoughts on the topic itself. And then, of course, hoping you'll plug all of the events that you have coming up in just a few weeks with your Cybersecurity Career Week.
Yeah, so up here is our our date for Cybersecurity Career Week that I hope that you participate in. But I would say closing remarks, one, do your homework. Cybersecurity is so vast, and so make sure that you know what you're trying to work towards. You might not know everything, or all of the details, but just get a little bit closer than other people. Do your homework more than somebody else. And then networking. And also understanding it's not just the technical, but those soft skills are so critical. Industry keeps telling us over and over again, we need people who communicate. We need them to be able to write. We need them to, all the other things, show up on time and blah, blah, blah. But writing and communicating are so important in this area that don't forget that. You might want to take some refresher courses on that, on grammar or whatnot. So, and there are so many tools and so many resources, and I hope that you will visit the NIST website to take advantage of some of those. And if you have any questions, please reach out, and we're here to help.
Phenomenal. Well, Davina, thank you so much for your remarks this morning. Folks, that's a wrap on our session today with Davina Pruitt Mentle with the NICE Program Office all about your cybersecurity launchpad and finding that first step there. We really appreciate all of your support of the program. NIST has been one of our biggest supporters and our founding partner since the beginning. So thank you for believing in our mission, and thank you for contributing to all of the success for our athletes. If you have any questions, folks, for Davina and the NICE team, they do have a booth set up in Brella. So certainly encourage you to engage with them there. Leave them some chats, request some one-on-one time, check out all of the resources that they've made available from their exhibitor booth. And they will also be joining us tomorrow in DC for our Season 4 US Cyber Team Draft event. So very much looking forward
Maybe
to
I could
seeing you
see
then,
some of,
Davina. Go ahead.
yeah, see some of you in person, perhaps.
It's exciting.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Have a wonderful afternoon. All righty, folks. So we will go ahead and continue on with our show for today. As a reminder, certainly encourage you to engage via Discord, engage via Brella. I know several of you have been lobbing us questions, so we appreciate that from all of you as you hear from our guest speakers. Just to kind of pull back up these slides, wanted to give you a reminder of what's to come over the next couple of hours and through the end of today, while we wait for our next guest speakers to join us here on stage. So tonight we will be offering a session, as I mentioned, landing your first blank. This is from 8:30 until 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. We will be welcoming both Katie Boudreau as well as Dr. Atit Kao. Katie is joining us tonight from MasterCard. She is the Director of Cyber Talent. And Dr. Atit Kao is a Principal Investigator with Nightwing, formerly Raytheon. Both of them are here tonight to provide you with a lot of information on the opportunities that their respective organizations offer for internships, for apprenticeships, and for entry-level jobs. So I've heard both of them speak. In fact, I've participated in presentations at conferences with both of them, and both phenomenal speakers. So it looks like we have our second Lunch and Learn session here with us now. So I'm going to go ahead and back up to their slide, and I will welcome Jackie and Lucas to the stage. Jackie and Lucas, whenever you're ready. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So Jackie and Lucas have joined us today from Palo Alto. Palo Alto is one of our Season 4 US Cyber Games sponsors. We're thrilled to have them on board. And Jackie and Lucas are here to talk about landing your first internship with Palo Alto Networks. Jackie is a senior recruiter, early talent and programs, and Lucas will be joining her on the stage. So folks, whenever you're ready, I have killed my screen share, and it's over to you.
Thanks, Brad. Nice to meet everybody. Just to quickly introduce myself, I'm Jackie, like Brad mentioned. I'm one of the technical recruiters over here at Palo. I will be sharing my screen in just a bit. And then I think when I hopped into this other Zoom, my US Cyber Games background disappeared. So apologies for that, but I will share my screen in just a second. All right. Let me know if you guys are all able to see my deck.
We can see your deck, and it's moving into slideshow now. Looks
Perfect.
great. All
Thanks.
set.
All right. All right. So I just wanted to thank you all for coming to our Lunch and Learn session today. We are Palo Networks, and we're super excited to chat with you about the early talent programs that we have, happening over the next summer and then incoming fall. Before we get started, I am going to share a QR code really quick. This is something that we're going to be using to stay in contact with you all post-event. I know US Cyber Games has a lot of events happening this week, and we would love to stay connected with you all. So if you haven't already, registered via this QR code through any of the other events, please do so now. And then we'll be sending follow-ups post-event with links to our roles and all of that afterwards. But just as like a brief agenda before we get started, what I'll be going over today primarily, I understand that the topic for today is landing your first internship. Just to provide some context as to what to expect for today, I'll mainly be going over a company overview and overview of our early talent programs, kind of some resume tips and tricks just to kind of tap into before going into recruiting season. And then I also brought in my peer Lucas, who is a senior staff data scientist over here at Palo, to chat a little bit more about his experience. He was an intern with us previously and then transitioned over to our new grad program. So I'd love for him to tell you a little bit more about his experience. But let's chat a little bit more about Palo Alto Networks really quick. All right. So our promise is delivering the most comprehensive and automated security that uses AI to protect and support you in real time. So overall, I would say over the last year or so, AI has been a really big focus for Palo Alto Networks. Cortex is one of our products primarily used in our SOC, but it really does use machine learning and AI to kind of assign specific signatures to malicious activity and make sure that those are being kind of kept in check as they are kind of running through our networks. But overall, making sure that we're using things like AI and all of the latest tech to really, lead towards our mission, which is being the cybersecurity partner of choice, protecting our digital way of life. This is just some general company information. As you can see, across the globe, we do support over 90,000 customers, which is great. We basically touch almost every industry you can think of. We protect 9 of the Fortune 10 companies, 8 of the 10 largest banks. And also another large group for us is our healthcare industry, right? So we've seen over the last couple of years, tons of attacks, in different hospitals and kind of medical facilities. And so we understand that security is a really large focus there. And so we do also support and protect 7 of the 10 top US hospitals. But this is just kind of general information on Palo. And then next, what I'm going to briefly go over is just our product suite. So this is just a really nice, concise overview of what we offer as a company. So we have kind of 4 products, if you will, or speedboats that we handle here at Palo. One is Strata, which is pretty much like our physical firewall, right? So this is kind of like our bread and butter, the first product that we came out with as a company. From there, we transitioned to cloud security operations, which we then added Prisma Cloud and then also Cortex. Cortex is the product that I had mentioned that utilizes a lot of machine learning and AI in the code. And then a couple of years ago, I think it was in 2020, we had acquired a company called Crypsis. This was more of a cybersecurity consulting company. And when we had acquired them, we did loop them into our Unit 42 group, which is pretty much our threat intelligence and advisory services. So you want to think of Unit 42 kind of as like, the people that will step in if, companies experience some type of security breach, and we're pretty much deploying our Unit 42 teams to work with those clients directly to understand what happened, potentially do vulnerability testing and then remediation tactics to move forward from there. All of this, is powered by Precision AI. This is kind of our next move with the company. Like I mentioned, AI has been a really large buzzword over the last year. And so, all of our teams and everything really have a focus on that. And even in our new grad roles that I'm going to be chatting about a little bit later on in the presentation, we've also started to hire at the early talent level for our machine learning engineers as well, just because, we understand that you guys are going to be the ones that have all of that experience kind of coming into kind of like this digital age that we're being in, or that we're in currently. All right. And then from the company information, I'm going to chat more about our early talent program. So just to kind of preface everything before I go through the next couple of slides, over here at Palo, we do have 2 types of early talent programs. We have our internship program that runs through the summer, and then also our new grad program that is more of a full-time opportunity, and that starts in the fall. So first, I'm going to talk about our intern program. So our intern program is a summer program, so it's 12 weeks throughout the summer. Depending on when you start and end school, it will determine your start and end date. So we normally have interns run from either May to August or June to September. It's 12 weeks in total. All of our interns are given a specific project to work on during the duration of their internship. We have tons of different types of roles. We have anything ranging from sales all the way to cybersecurity consulting, which I had mentioned earlier. But basically any type of role that you're kind of thinking of, we probably have it. And then, of course, like for myself, being more on the technical side of things, I primarily recruit for roles like software engineers, machine learning engineers, like I had mentioned. I did have some data science positions and some InfoSec roles as well. But basically, you will be placed in a group where, you'll have a manager and a team. And so from there, a lot of what you'll be doing over the summer is working your projects to completion, while at the same time being very involved in things like community building events, social events, professional development events. We really want to make sure that our interns over the summer, because you guys are here just for a short time with us in HQ, that you guys are getting a really holistic experience in terms of not only just getting the hands-on experience from your role, but also meeting different leaders in the company, like learning from them, learning about their career paths, getting connected with people like Lucas or maybe other grads like in the LEAP program as well. But in addition to kind of like that robust structure that we have, another large component of our intern program is the support that we offer just as an early talent team. Managers obviously are a huge aspect of this, where we are going to really lean on them to make sure that they are giving you everything that you need, while also giving you autonomy in the role to really be creative and kind of learn on your own, right? You'll also be supported by the early talent team. We were very involved from just a support perspective and checking in about performance, really kind of being that middle person. If any, issues kind of come up during the internship or whatever, then you at least have another point of contact in addition to somebody else on your team that you could go to for any assistance or things. But and then I forgot to mention before I go on to the next slide, all of these roles will be posted on our Ripple Match page. If you guys did use the QR code link that I showed earlier, it will also take you to our general career page on Ripple Match, and all of our intern roles should be posted there. You may only see the technical roles posted right now. We are in the process of opening up all of the other positions too. So I would say over the next couple of weeks, just be, very diligent about checking in about new postings, but we should have at least a majority of our technical roles already posted for internships. The last thing that I wanted to note here for our intern program, I'm not sure if this will apply to any of the students that we have on this call specifically, but we are able to consider candidates that do need visa sponsorship in the future for our master's and PhD positions. Anything at our bachelor's level, we are not able to consider, but anything kind of as far as like advanced degrees, anything noted with like a master's or PhD kind of level will be open to candidates that need sponsorship. So I just wanted to note that. All right, and then going on to our LEAP new grad program. So the only difference here, right, is for our intern program, these are more so for current students that are returning back to school in the fall. So that is one requirement. If you are fully, graduating from your program, whether it be your bachelor's or master's program, you would then be eligible for our new grad roles that we would have open. So separately from our intern program, our new grad program actually starts every August. So it's usually the first week of August that we have all of our candidates start. If you're kind of on a normal academic calendar and you're graduating in the spring, we like to give our candidates at least the summer off. You guys are working so hard for 4 years, and we want to make sure that you guys get a break before starting your full-time role. And so which is why we make sure that all of our cohorts start that first week of August for all of our full-time positions. Very similarly to our intern program, we have a whole bunch of different types of roles for LEAP. What's cool about our new grad program is we actually use a lot of our interns from the previous year as our pipeline for our incoming grads, right? And so with that being said, for the internship, when you're kind of thinking about, what you want to do post grad, if you're really wanting to be on the team that you're on and the team feels like you're a fit, depending on your performance and kind of what budget looks like, you do have an opportunity to potentially come back and be offered for a full-time position on that team. So I also wanted to note that kind of in addition to just applying to our new grad roles just, afterwards. But yeah, so very similarly to the intern program, we do have 3 pillars for LEAP too. So one is community building, making sure that, because we ask all of our grads to be on site at HQ or in Plano or wherever like our grads will be based, that we want to make sure that you guys are connecting with the other grads that we have in those offices. And so we'll host things like happy hours, volunteer events, lunches, things like that, just to really kind of get you guys out of the workspace and just making sure that you guys are connecting, making those relationships, since those are really important as well. Professional development is another really big thing over here for LEAP 2, where we'll bring in even our C-level executives to pretty much chat with our grads to talk to them about what their career path has looked like up to that point. If they have any advice for early talent candidates, right? Just kind of having more of like an open dialogue with our grads. And I feel like that also, gives more insight into kind of what the bigger picture of the company looks like, right? When you're hearing from the leaders and things like that, I do think it provides more clarity. And then finally, it is mentorship/support, right? So for our new grads, we do have tons of different pathways where you can kind of opt in, get additional mentors and things in addition to your managers. And so that's also another component of the LEAP program that we also are working towards as well. But overall, it's a really great way just to apply all of the things that you have learned in school into a full-time job. And so if you are looking for full-time opportunities, these are not posted on the Ripple Match page just yet. We are in the process of opening these up right now. So I would say, probably by the end of the week, early next week, we should have a majority of our full-time roles posted. But all of these will be posted on Ripple Match. So definitely make sure that you guys navigate there afterwards. All right, and then this is just a really quick overview of just the early talent open roles that we have available. So like I mentioned, we do have software engineering positions at all levels, so bachelor's, master's, and PhD, and then for interns and new grads. Unit 42 is the other group that I was talking about earlier that is more cybersecurity consulting. We do have full-time and new grad roles for those as well, but those are not posted just yet. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely, stay up to date on our careers page on Ripple Match. And once those applications open up, go ahead and do that too, or apply to those as well. We also have a PMA program. This is more kind of like an advanced technical product manager program. For this, we only have a new grad cohort, unfortunately, and it is a very small cohort. So I think this past year, we only hired about 8, as opposed to our Unit 42 group, we hire generally, between 10 and 15 normally. And our other groups as well, PMA is definitely the smallest group that we have in terms of full-time positions. We also have, on the bottom, more go-to-market or like sales focused positions. So, if you're a little bit kind of in the middle, right? Not too technical, but also wanting to be in more of like a customer facing role. We also have our BDR positions open. We do also hire interns at this level as well. So if sales internships are something that you're interested in, we can always, consider you for those roles as well. And then our solution consultants are pretty much the technical advisors on the other side of the sales process, where they are doing more of the sales engineering work alongside the BDR, where they will kind of do the technical selling. And we also have intern and new grad positions for those, and we will have those posted on Ripple Match. But this is just kind of a general overview of everything that we're going to be opening up for this upcoming year. I will reiterate that applications will be opening up in the next couple of weeks. So just make sure you guys are, staying up to date on Ripple Match and then submitting applications when you can. All right. And then I'm going to take a pause there really quick. I wasn't sure if I saw questions or anything come through. Perfect.
There are a few questions, if you don't mind me interjecting. There was a question, just a reminder on what month do you apply for the August Start LEAP program?
Yeah, so for the August Start LEAP program, we hire a year in advance. So applications will be open now for positions that will start next year. So I would start navigating over to the Ripple Match page probably towards the end of the week, and we should have the roles open then.
Perfect. And just a plug, Palo Alto has set up a booth in Umbrella as well. So those of you that have joined the events via the virtual events platform, certainly encourage you to engage with the Palo folks via their booth and learn more there. I will continue scanning the questions and I'll collect them and I'll be more prepared for next time you break.
Yeah, no worries. All good. And I'm totally happy to pause every once in a while too, Brad, if that's easier, just to kind of field the questions as they come. But yeah, no worries. But okay, so moving on, I'm going to just chat through some resume tips and tricks, just so you guys are kind of aware what to expect in terms of our interview process moving forward if you choose to apply to any of our roles. So first, just kind of building your resume. Keep in mind, I just always want to make this disclaimer when I'm talking about, resumes and kind of advice going into interview processes and things. Every recruiter is different and every interview process is different, right? So just keep in mind that the advice that Lucas and I will give you today is very specific to Palo. So I just wanted to make that disclaimer here. But let's start off with the fundamentals, right? So just building your resume. Something that we look for as recruiters is just like the very general information just from the get, right? I remember seeing the statistic somewhere where recruiters are only really looking at your resumes for about 30 seconds to a minute. And so it's very key that you guys are kind of hitting all of these essential things on your resumes, just so you guys aren't, so recruiters are not passing through your resume if you guys are like potentially missing any information, right? So including things like your contact information, obviously your name, location, email, and phone number. For location, if you are not local to the role that you are applying to when you are open to relocation, please make sure that you note that on your resume as well. So I just wanted to make that call out. Any external links, I've seen things like GitHubs, LinkedIn's, different portfolios being added to resumes. This is great. Just one thing here is just please double check that the links are working. I've come across so many resumes where links have been broken to LinkedIn or to their GitHub, and it's kind of just, you know, a dead end from there. And so please just go back and double check that all of your external links work, including your education. Graduation date here is going to be key for for recruiters here at Palo specifically. Something that I do myself is, as I'm going through resumes, I'm really only looking at, I won't say only, but one of the first things that I'm looking at is your expected graduation date and if it's going to line up with our current program, right? And so, for example, interns for next year could be graduating in 2026 versus new grad positions that would be starting next year. I would be looking for maybe May or sometime in spring 2025 grads, right? So making sure that your grad date is very clearly lined out. If it is flexible by any chance, like if you can drop a couple of classes, graduate earlier, whatever, maybe just make a note on there that there is that possibility too. And then obviously noting any skills and work experience. Something that I wanted to make a note here about is for each role that you apply to, right? I think this is just general knowledge in terms of things that you kind of should expect and do as you're applying to different types of roles, is keeping some kind of like master resume with all of your experience, right? And then depending on the type of role that you're applying to, making a copy and then editing based on the relevant experience for that specific role. So for skills and work experience, just note based on the resume that you submit, this could change dependent on the role that you would be applying to, since best practice would be to generally kind of change the things on your resume to make sure that it's more aligned to the role that you're applying to. And so those are the essentials that I wanted to quickly talk through, but just to really have yourself stand out, right? I've seen this a lot and I've gotten a lot of questions around this, specifically where interns or new grads are like, you know, I didn't really get a chance to do internships throughout my time in school. I was working part-time jobs, whatever the case is, right? That's completely okay. I think something here at Palo is we just want to we want to see that you are still actively seeking out learning opportunities, right? Which is why we, advise adding things like academic projects or passion projects to your profiles, just to make sure that there is some kind of tangible experience there. And these can be things that you do in your classes, maybe working with nonprofits, things like that. Volunteer experience, very similar as well. If you guys have awards and certificates, this is huge, right? So I know for cybersecurity specifically, any of the CompTIA certifications are really great to see on resumes. Those are not required by any means, but we do love to see those on resumes too. And then of course, hackathons, competitions, things like that, student orgs, you know, this group here is definitely something to note on your resume also. Hobbies and interests, I always really love to see that on resumes. I like to see who my candidates are outside kind of like of the work environment. And so that's always kind of a nice to see there. But these are just kind of some key considerations to just kind of go through as you guys are going through the interview process and just going through different recruitment processes at one time. But just wanted to, you know, make sure that your resume is going to kind of tell your story, right? So making sure that if you guys are called in for a recruiter screen, making sure that you guys understand kind of what's on your resume and you guys are able to speak to it. Again, being able to create multiple versions of your resume if you feel like that's necessary. And then this will ultimately lead to, you know, including the relevant information for the position that you're applying for. And then lastly, you know, I feel like all the other things here are, you know, pretty self-explanatory, but read the job descriptions. Like if you guys are unsure of how to maybe tailor your resume specific to a role that you're applying for. Use the job description. I know AI and like ChatGPT is a huge thing right now. Use platforms like that, right, to maybe put in the job description and have it suggest a few statements that you can add to your resume that would be relevant, to your own experience. But just wanted to kind of flash the key considerations before I handed things off to Lucas.
Cool. Should we do questions first, or should I just go into my part now?
Yeah. Brad, did we get any additional questions before Lucas started?
Yeah, no specific questions, but a lot of really kind of kudos on the calling out specifically around the 30 seconds to make an impact, kind of that initial recruiter review on applications and whatnot. That was well received, and the emphasis on standing out. I'm seeing some comments on actively seeking learning opportunities, even if you have been busy, working a part-time job in a restaurant or whatever that may be, really kind of, keeping up with the landscape of emerging technologies and what's the latest and greatest through, academic projects or volunteer work or publishing blogs based off of research that you're doing on your own. Those kinds of things are all piping up on the chat. So really good stuff.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, Brad. Back to you, Lucas.
Cool. All right, so I'll start with kind of what I'm doing now at Palo Alto Networks, and then I'll go to how I got there. So kind of journey from start of college all the way to my current full-time role. And then I'll end with some takeaways, like things I probably would have told myself back in the day. So right now, as the title says, I'm a data scientist, and I mainly work on phishing detection. So that can be anything from phishing emails, phishing web pages, and even now with all the AI focus that's going on, that includes deepfake detection as well. So, as Jackie mentioned, we're doing a lot of stuff around AI, and that's one such example of how that's influencing the work that we do as well. So yeah, that's a little bit about what I currently do. I really like my current job. I work with a bunch of really smart, friendly folks that are just great to work with. So how did I get here? I think in college, I never really considered cybersecurity specifically. To be honest, I kind of stumbled into it just because I happened to intern there. And I'll get to how exactly that happened as well. So my story is going to be more so from like an AI ML background. But I think it goes to show that you don't necessarily have to like specialize in cybersecurity in college to get a job in cybersecurity. Like I certainly didn't. So my story is going to be a bit more focused on AI stuff just because that's my personal experience, but I think it's applicable as well. So before college, so kind of the summer before college, I was actually considering both doing a computer science degree or a business degree. So I was kind of flip-flopping between the two. And at the time, so this was 2016, and a lot of AI stuff was starting to take off at this time, not really to the amount of current hype, but it was still something that I was really interested in. So I actually took some online courses that summer before college, and I happened to really like them. So when I got to campus, I wanted to get more involved in research around those areas. So I found a research lab that had actually just started. So I went to school at USC, and there's a center that was recently founded when I joined called the Center for AI in Society. And they had worked on a bunch of different projects with like different nonprofits, different organizations around LA, even the mayor's office. They had actually done some work in cybersecurity too, although I never touched on those projects specifically. But yeah, those projects were all about like using AI for some sort of social impact work. In my case, I was working on a project related to drone footage, and specifically using drones to actually patrol wildlife parks in Southeast Asia. So they were looking for elephants from the sky and also looking for poachers. So my job, very much like sort of a starting from the bottom thing, but I wasn't actually working on the ML itself. I was working on labeling the data set. So I was manually reviewing a bunch of videos of drone footage and just drawing circles around where the elephants were. And I was working on collecting all this data so that the actual PhD student who I was working with could train her own models. So that's kind of how I got my foot in the door. And eventually I started, learning more and more about what the PhD student was actually doing. And eventually I was able to work on some of my own models as well. So at the same time, I also happened to meet a lot of people who were also interested in similar topics as me. So AI, machine learning, all this stuff. And we noticed that there wasn't really a coordinated student organization at the time for this. And we were only freshmen at the time, but we decided like, why not start our own? And we thought it would be a really good opportunity to learn about this stuff as well. Our eventual goal was to put together a curriculum which we could use to teach other students. At the time, a lot of the ML classes were only available for master's students, but there were a lot of people who were interested in it. And I think at some schools, like a similar thing applies to cybersecurity. I know there's some schools where there's like undergrad classes, but it seems like a lot of the time, there's a lot of master's classes around that sort of thing. So we kind of saw an opportunity to teach other students as well while we were at it. So I guess we're just doing two things at the time. I was working at this research lab and at the same time helping to manage the student organization. And I think that gave me a lot of hands-on experience that helped me stand out. I think it's one thing to just do your coursework and like that's it. And that's great. But at the same time, I think having more hands-on experience like that can help you stand out and show that like you've worked on long-term projects that are going to transfer to your ability to actually succeed in like a 3-month long internship. So as I was working on both of these things, I was deciding between doing research long term, so like going into academia, getting a PhD, all that stuff, versus going for an internship. So during my sophomore year, I decided I would try to find an internship in this AI ML space. And to be honest, I still found it really difficult. Um, at the time, I had already worked on research projects. I had helped lead the student org. But at the same time, like you're going up against a lot of master's students, even PhD students for these AI ML positions. And as a sophomore, it was really tough for me to like convince anyone to even give me an interview just due to like lack of real world experience. But thankfully, USC actually organized this networking event where we took a trip up to the Bay Area and visited some USC alums who were working at various companies. And I actually met someone who had started their own AI ML startup, was a USC alum from I think 10, 20 years ago. And we chatted for a bit and seemed interested in potentially taking me on as an intern. And yeah, I eventually landed that, but it wasn't until I think March. So, like 3 months left, 2 months left before the summer that it was able to actually get anything. So I think like, especially if you're, not a rising senior, it can be really tough to find an internship kind of just because of what year you're in. So keep that in mind as well. Like it's not a reflection on you. It's just, really difficult. But eventually that experience turned out to be pretty good. And then I got back to school. So this was junior year. And then a few weeks back into classes, I'm thinking like, okay, I got to start applying for internships again. And I was getting ready to, prep my resume and submit all these applications. But I actually got an email from a Palo Alto Networks recruiter asking if I was interested in looking at this AI for or I guess data scientists for cybersecurity type of role. And this is the point where like I hadn't done anything in cybersecurity before. But I figured like instead of spending all this time submitting applications, why don't I just take this call and see what happens? So I did. And oh yeah, so that's a good question. I got a question, how did the recruiter find you? It was actually through LinkedIn. So yeah, definitely have your profiles up to date. Like anything you think is impressive or noteworthy, like definitely put that on there. Because recruiters use LinkedIn. It's a really good thing to have. Like honestly, I think your resume is important, but LinkedIn may be more important because it's more easily accessible. So I went through that initial recruiter call, went through the interview process with the hiring manager and like some of the people I work with now. And I really liked the people I was talking to. And I think the thing that really sold me was the fact that like it seemed like a really impactful use of AI and machine learning. I think a lot of times, like one of the major use cases for machine learning at the time was like ads optimization, and suggesting like new products for people to buy. But I think cybersecurity is really interesting because it felt like you were actually contributing in some way. I mean, cyber attacks are a massive issue, and I think just being able to work on that was a major plus for me. And the people I was interviewing with really emphasized that as well. Like it seemed like it was something they cared about. It seemed like they really enjoyed their jobs. So yeah, I was honestly kind of sold. I basically took that intern offer. So my final recruiting season ended up being actually a lot more relaxing and chill than I thought it would be. Just because I got this opportunity and kind of stumbled into it and ended up taking it. Question from audience. Oh, any other success stories from Palo Alto interns? I can talk about some other interns that I've worked with and actually mentored, but I can get to that later. I think so. Yeah, during my internship, a few things that I really liked were just how easy people were to work with. I think specifically in AI, like it can be a relatively high ego field, but I found that at least at the team at Palo Alto that I was with, everyone was like super easy to work with. They were like PhDs from Stanford, UCLA, but still, very willing to help out. So I think that's a lesson too, is like at an internship, people kind of understand that you're still learning. Obviously you should have the skills to contribute in some way, but like everyone kind of understands it's a learning experience for you. So don't be afraid to ask questions and take advantage of the mentorship that's being offered. Definitely recommend that. Yeah, so now like I've actually had the opportunity to mentor a few interns as well. Um, and yeah, I think the success stories mainly are like, let me think. I mean, I think every intern that we've worked with honestly has been a success story. At least in my personal experience. Like I think if you pass the hiring bar and you get along with the team, then it's I don't know, it seems to flow pretty naturally that like a lot of our interns tend to do pretty well. Jackie, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah. No, for sure. I can totally hop in, Lucas. And just to kind of add to what Lucas is saying, I completely agree with that. So something I mentioned earlier is that our intern program is a huge pipeline for our new grad roles, right? And so those success story or those like those conversions are success stories in themselves. And in Lucas's case specifically, like his intern cohort, a lot of them were converted into full-time roles afterwards, right? And so what we're doing is we're trying to build pipeline 2 years in advance, right? So in the internship process, like we are trying to vet out a lot of different candidates. And I think at that level too, to Lucas's point, it's hard for us to also understand, like, or not hard for us to understand, but we also have to we understand that like you guys are coming in with less experience, right? And so it's a lot of the soft skills actually that I think I've seen or are can be like indicators, right, of success in candidates moving forward. And Lucas, like feel free to chime in if you've seen anything from the interns that you've mentored, but people that go out of their way to look for resources on their own, try to do their work before they come to their manager and maybe ask a question in terms of how are things done or really just like maintaining that curiosity throughout the internship. I think curiosity just overall, right, will help you significantly in this internship. And so just to that point, I think we've just seen so much success for interns going through this program in general. But like the cool part about it, right, is a lot of what made those candidates successful were not only the technical skills that they held, but also the soft skills that they were using to work with their peers, to Lucas's point.
Yeah, totally. I think one of our most successful interns was actually an intern 2 years before me on the same data science team. And he like eventually became, one of the most important AI people at the company. So like it very much is like the intern program is trying to recruit for those people who like in 5, 6 years time are going to be, performing really, really well. And I think a lot of the interns that I've seen kind of like do fit that. Yeah, I think a lot. Yeah. So a lot of the interns that I've seen who have been really successful again are like really curious. In the AI space specifically, that meant like, reading research papers, not just about cybersecurity, but about AI that are coming out and trying to apply them to new types of problems as well. Um, so like you might be assigned a specific project and like your priority should be focusing on that project and doing a good job there. But at the same time, like try to use the opportunity to meet with other team members, learn about what they're doing, and also just like learn about the field in general. Um, so yeah, I'm trying to think what other tips I had. I guess I'll kind of close off on that part, and then we can go to questions. So I think the takeaways from my experience, yeah, the first one I was going to say was be curious. I think that's one of the most important ones. Um, and really to keep learning, like especially when you're on the job, that becomes really important as well. So it doesn't really stop. Like it doesn't stop after classes. You kind of have to be studying about new types of attacks. And in the AI case, like learning about new types of models and architectures and things like that. And I think while you're in school, it's helpful to not just do your classwork, but as I mentioned, like try to get involved in a research lab or some in-depth projects. It could be like an in-depth project with other students, like maybe in a student org that you're working on. And I think like those really in-depth projects will help differentiate you. If if a recruiter sees that, or if like a hiring manager sees that you've worked on a project for like, a year, as opposed to just, like a 2-week long course project, I think they'll be a lot more inclined to like ask a lot of questions about that during your interview. It gives you a lot of really good things to talk about. So I definitely recommend trying to focus on like an in-depth project that you can work on for a long period of time. And I think the other takeaway is just to be resilient during the recruiting process. I think for me, like, that was definitely a big lesson as well. I think how you do in the recruiting process isn't really a reflection on you. It can be really tough to find an internship. Like, even if you're a solid candidate, sometimes you just get unlucky or like opportunities aren't open at the right time or you don't get in touch with the right people. So in my case, like I got really lucky at that USC event that got me my first internship. So sometimes it takes breaks like that to get your foot in the door. Um, and at the same time, like you have to be open to those sorts of opportunities. Like if I hadn't gone to that networking event, I probably wouldn't have gotten an internship that summer. Um, and I think things would have been fine even if I didn't. Especially looking back, like I think things tend to work out okay, like especially if you check the other boxes, even if you don't land such and such internship in the long run, like things kind of tend to work out if you put in the work. So, yeah, I think those are the two big takeaways. And yeah, I guess I'll close on that. Be curious and be resilient, and yeah, you'll probably end up being fine.
Thanks,
You
Lucas.
guys, this is phenomenal stuff. I did drop a couple of questions that I've pulled from the audience in the chat. I'm happy to read them off to you if that's easier, if you want to address them, whatever you prefer.
Yeah, for sure. I can probably just bounce the questions between Lucas and I, Brad, if that works,
Perfect.
and we'll go
Yep.
from there. Let's start with this one, Lucas, since you were just talking about this. I took a machine learning class in my undergrad and thought about diving deeper. Can you speak a little bit more to that specialization?
Yeah. I think here's an example where like coursework is one thing, but I think the really beneficial part, like if you want to get into it, I think trying to join either a research lab or a student organization that's doing a lot of hands-on work is going to be really important. Um, I think the classes are good at teaching you the theory behind stuff, but specifically like for recruiting, I think like I've been on the other end now where I'm interviewing candidates and reviewing resumes and stuff like that. And it really helps to have some solid like hands-on experience beyond just coursework. So research labs, student organizations, I think are the two best ways of doing that. So if your school does have a student org, try to join it. If there's a research lab that you're interested in, just shoot an email to the professor. So yeah.
And I might just kind of double tap on this question a little bit. Are there resources maybe not affiliated with the university? If there's, somebody writing cool blogs or GitHub profiles or, YouTube podcasts, any folks that you might suggest, machine learning interested individuals should follow or check out?
Yeah, there's a ton of online resources. There weren't many at the time when I was getting started, which I actually think kind of gave me a leg up because like not everyone had access to this, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think there should be access to all these courses. But
Mhm.
one that I would recommend is called Fast AI. Um, I think it's might just be fastai.com. I forget, but I recommend that. Andrew Ng as well, that's NG for the last name, has a lot of really good online resources out there too. That's the class that I took after high school. So yeah, there's a ton of online resources now. Honestly, I think I'm a little out of touch with the best starting resources now, but yeah, I would give those a look.
Thanks, Lucas. All right. And then, so are there any specific skills you mentioned, AI work or coding languages, et cetera, that you look from in applicants? I can take this one, Lucas, and if there's anything that I miss from like an ML perspective, feel free to chime in. But so for our interns specifically, I would say, or for all of our roles, for our technical positions, I would say at a very, very base level, you should have some kind of programming skill, right? A lot of our teams here, they use Python. Some teams use Java, but not really. And then we also have some embedded systems and distributed systems teams that use C. So any of those in terms of like programming languages would be good. I think something that will help you guys as candidates, right? Showcasing this on your resume is making sure that you guys are including any school projects that you guys use these programming languages in or passion projects that you guys have done. And then as far as like AI specific, I've heard from one specific hiring manager that I worked with, what he was looking for were, and this is very at a very advanced level, you guys, right? So just keep that in mind. Things like deep learning. I remember he wanted a candidate with experience with CNNs. So things like that, very ML focused. But Lucas, anything that you've seen from the interview process that you wanted to call out?
Um, I think, yeah, I guess I'll echo what I said earlier. Like having a project that you've worked on just gives you more stuff to talk about in an interview. Um, and like definitely list it out on the resume, on your LinkedIn as well. But yeah, like especially if you've worked on something for, I don't know, more than a few months, that is a really, really good thing to have just as something you can talk about.
Totally. Thank you. All right. And then last question. So which internships, job roles have the fewest applications? Are there any that you see growing in importance slash number of open positions? That's a really good question. I won't say that we have any internships that have like fewest applicants. We have a very high volume of candidates that apply every year. I want to say for one role, we could have something like 500 applicants. So it's very, very high volume in terms of the candidate pool that we work with. So which is why, Lucas and I would encourage you guys to start applying now since we do have the roles open. So you guys can kind of get into that first batch. Any roles that are of growing importance, to Lucas's point, just like the whole shift to like machine learning and AI, right? We're staffing a lot of our teams with machine learning engineers. And so this skill set is really, really important here. In my experience, just kind of working on the technical recruiting team for a couple of years, this is kind of the biggest group that I've seen in terms of growth for those types of positions. But good question. Brad, do we have any other questions from the students?
Those are the questions that I have scrubbed from both Brella and Discord for the time being.
Oh, awesome.
But just to reiterate, y'all, thank you so much for putting together such a well-prepared presentation. Truly, truly, truly appreciate it. Lots of comments on the practical suggestions, lots of comments on just Lucas's background, kind of considering the business versus computer science background of, how he was going to kind of look towards taking his step into the field. Um, Again, the actively seeking learning opportunities. I think you hit that point quite a few times in terms of research projects, finding labs to, be affiliated with and do some work for. The networking, even while you're or while you're filling an internship role, is hugely important to that continued success. So, all really, really, really good stuff. Just looking through the notes that I've taken on your presentation today, really appreciated all of the information that you shared and the tips for those interested in pursuing an opportunity with Palo.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us, Brad. This was super fun just to host with the students. I will share the QR code link just one more time for
Excellent.
everybody this is going to be our application link for our Ripple Match page. So it'll navigate you to a general careers page, and then you can apply to the links from there. So just keep checking every week or so. We may have some other roles open in addition to the ones that we already have. But thank you all for your time today.
Absolutely. Very cool stuff. Folks, grab that QR code. It's probably in your Brella booth as well.
Yes, I believe we had sent it over to Haley, and she's using one QR code for the entire week.
Awesome. Very cool. Folks, check out the Palo Alto booth in Brella. Certainly not one to be missed. Lots of great opportunities. Some of them already posted. And as you heard from Jackie and Lucas, stay tuned to that page for continued updated listings as they push those out for the interns that they'll be recruiting moving into 2025. Jackie, Lucas, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your support of the US Cyber Games program. We could not do what we do and be able to have the impact we have on the athletes without folks like yourselves supporting our mission and supporting the vision and making yourselves available for these kinds of events. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us, Brad. This was super fun. Hope to see you all in our application process, but we'll see you guys soon.
And I think maybe I'll see you tomorrow in DC for draft day.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Have a wonderful day. All right, folks, that is a wrap on our Lunch and Learn session for today. As a reminder, tonight we will be back with you. Tonight's talk will run from 8:30 p.m. until 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, featuring Director of Cyber Talent Katie Boudreau from MasterCard and Dr. Atit Kao, a Principal Investigator with Nightwing, both of whom will be talking all about their internship process, what their programs look like, the types of opportunities that they make available to you all that are interested in such work. And last but not least, thank you to our wonderful sponsors. The US Cyber Games program is very fortunate to have the support of some massive names in the industry, really kind of putting their stake in believing in our vision and our mission and supporting our athletes. So NIST, NICE, we heard from Davina this morning, CISA, Department of Homeland Security, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, Nightwing, we'll hear from tonight, Battelle, we heard from yesterday, Ironbow, MasterCard's on deck for tonight as well, Palo Alto, who you just heard from. Thank you all for sponsoring the US Cyber Games program. If you are in the Washington, D.C. area tomorrow, we would love to see you in person for our Season 4 US Cyber Team Draft event. That will kick off about 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time for some networking for our exhibitor expo. And then, of course, if you're not local, tons of live stream opportunities as well for those of you that want to catch us that way. Today is the last day to register for our Flag Fest CTF. That is a virtual Capture the Flag event. It kicks off to Friday. So if you haven't done so already, get registered by tomorrow so you can participate in that. Folks, that's a wrap on today. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't be shy to engage with our partners and sponsors and fellow athletes and colleagues and peers in Discord and or Brella. And we will see you tonight, 8:30 p.m.